And so here I go. Okay. I believe, and I've always believed, that only we can save our own lives. So only we can save ourselves as we walk through life. The problem with saving ourselves is that it only can happen after the crash. You don't save yourself before you stumble. You fall, and then you get up, and you're like, ow, that really hurts. But you gotta fall down and go boom, and then you rebuild, right? Now, my theory, fall down, go boom. Okay, Barbara Kingsolver says it a little more eloquently, and how she says it is, every one of us is called upon, perhaps many times, to start a new life. A frightening diagnosis, a loss of a job, a move, and onward we go, pitched and wrecked and absurdly resolute, driven despite everything to make good on a new shore, to try one thing after another. Surely that is our basic instinct, until finally you just say, high tide, time to wade out into the glorious debris, and time to take this world for what it really is. Let me tell you, my world is a shit show. But let me bring you back to pre-shit show, okay? Now, here's Jodi Murphy. I'm a single mother, I got 3 great kids, I have confidence, I have the answers to everything. I make good decisions, I make good kids. One's a fluke, 2's a trend, 3, it's motherfucking mothering people, woo! Right? And I also believe the kids have to solve their own problems, they have to make their own mistakes, and you have to be brave enough to let them do this, because it's the quickest way. The pain is severe, but it's usually just a one-time thing, because it's so painful, right? Candle, finger, ow. Electric, water, nice, perm. I suggest you pay for it next time. 3rd martini, never, ever, ever a good idea, no matter what you think. These are mistakes we make once, right? Okay. And if you do twice, well, whatever. But the point was, is I was the I got this girl. My life was infused with confidence. I got this. I didn't know the answer, but what I did know is I was gonna land on my feet. And then my feet were knocked out beneath me. And my mom died. And a huge part of me went with her. January 2016, she was there, and then she wasn't. So what happened was, grief is biological. You don't realize it, but it is a biological thing. It's like you're running and your hair's in the wind and stretching back, and you can't stop running because your hot, sweaty hair is gonna stop and blow into your face, and you're gonna be smothered with sorrow. That's what it felt like, just running. So I realized it was physical, and it manifested itself in the inability for me to make a decision, to keep a thought, to keep a sentence. So you go from, I got this, to, oh no, I do not have this. It's very scary. My three daughters, who are all launched and loaded and awesome, they could sense the difference in me, and they came to see me, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going crazy. And I've never been able to admit that I don't got this. There's never in my life. And they looked at me and said, you know what? If you're going crazy, we're going with you. I was like, damn, you guys are awesome. So anyway, it was the first time I admitted that I did not have it and that I needed help. The first time, over 50. So I leaned into my vulnerability, and I did everything that I thought was gonna make me better. Psychologists, shrinkologists, going on medicine, here, take this, try that, you know. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna be willing to give whatever it would take. But months later, I was impatient because I wasn't better. And my psychologist said, you know what, Jodi? I think what you need to do is that you need to go into a more, double down, like let's go more intense. Like maybe you should go to an outpatient thing where they treat anxiety and depression and the resulting clusterfuck of obsessive compulsive shit that goes on when your life is a bleh. And I'm thinking, benevolent Jodi, I have no patience with outpatients. What am I gonna do? These strangers are gonna be telling me their stories? I can give a shit, okay? I'm hurting. I need help. Right? This space feels so bad. So, I was driving home and I thought of a quote that says, welcome kind of relief. He was like, well, at least they're not in me. It's all good. Anyway, I arrived after maybe one, all right, maybe two shots, whatever. We'll just call it a day. I wind up walking into this yurt, looking like this, like, Miss Chicago, I'm here with my heels and my dress. And it was like such a fish out of water situation. But you know what? The water was warm and inviting. And it was just so, you know, like, hey, welcome. Now let me point out something very important with the solo crap. First of all, solo, nobody. You don't talk to another person for 4 days. There's no technology, no books, no journals, nothing. Nothing. You are actually segmented off in your own little world, right? I had expected on cheating, actually, but I screwed up and left my charger. And so I really was like, fucked. Okay. They didn't expect you here. They didn't say, what do you got? You know, whatever. It's like, go. In the morning, they sent you off with a tobacco ritual, some feathers, shit, and off. And they sent you on the stair. Go that way, follow the pink ribbon. It's like, what pink ribbon? You know, it's like thread on a branch. I'm like, okay. Wilderness Jode, Wilderness Jode. I'm like making my way. I find my tent, my area. I set up my tent. I'm like, damn, this is good. I'm looking off over this vast valley, and I see this little kind of rain, you know, it looks like some thunderclouds coming. I was like, oh, isn't that cute? A little pitty pat of rain, that'd be so cute. Well, be careful what you wish for. It wasn't pity pain, it was a motherfucking deluge that sat over the area for 2 hours with the wind and lightning and thunder, and I was soaked. A river runs through it, yes, right through my goddamn tent. I had rain gear on and I was still soaked. And I sat there for the last 30 minutes in a ball holding my sleeping bag, like the last vestige of like anything warm that I would ever have that's dry. And it was, I'm like, all right, you stepped in it big time, Jodi, today. So, the rain stopped, and all of a sudden, I get out, I refix everything, and now Wilderness Jode is back. Okay, now, I got this camp area because I love the sunset. Now the sunset is starting, but it's so huge, it's not like a sunset on the street from your porch with a glass of wine. This is a fucking sunset. I mean, there's like valleys and dales and things, and it was frightening. So now it's getting darker and darker, and I am so intimidated that I can't enjoy it. And all I wanted to do was just hide in my tent, which is exactly what I did, and pray for light, which is exactly what I got thanks to the orientation of my tent. Stupid head. Live and learn. So every day went from not having enough time in the day to too much time. Every day, every minute was like 5,000 hours, okay? So I wake up and it's Jodi's listening to Jodi because there's no distraction. So now it's just Jodi chatter in your mind. It's like, oh, look at the squirrel. Shut up, shut up. I'm like, oh my God. So now, for 24 hours, it's the most uncomfortable thing. It's like, and it won't ever stop. And then I realized after 24 hours, this was just, my mind was concentrating things that weren't working. Anything that was working, I didn't think about. My children, they're awesome. I didn't think of them once, right? I'm just thinking about other things. And it was just this tug and pull, tug and pull. 48 hours later, I'm lying on the hammock praying for death, and all of a sudden this bubble burst, and all that chatter just silenced, and it was just like, ah. And all of a sudden I heard these words, and it said, "You are the prize. You are enough." Now I knew these words came from inside of me, but they were not my words, because they sounded way too certain and way too right. And I was not right. Anyway, that actually was a turning point for me. Now, when the sunset came, and instead of hiding my tent, I grabbed my mom's ashes and I swirled around my campsite and I just let them go. And I was wearing all black. Of course, it's so slimming for camping. And I am spinning around, and I look down, and now I am covered in my mom's ashes. I had handprints in ash, my handprints on my thighs of my mom's ashes. That takes a while to get used to, and you're just like, whoa. So I laid down on the earth at that point, because I was feeling it, and I just poured my sorrow into the earth. Face in the dirt, ashes to ashes, literally. And I cried my eyes out, and I just poured my sorrow. And then after that, after it was all out of me, and the earth was like, come on, Jodi, give us your pain. We'll take your pain. And then I just poured in all my hopes and all my gratitude. And it gave me such joy. And you know what? Mom and I slept very well that night, right? The next day, the final day, I went from me to, no, I'm chatting with the trees. We're having a conversation. And they say I am right, always. And then you realize that you have nothing to look at except the clouds, and the clouds come together and they actually make out. So that could have also been a byproduct of the fasting, a little water deprivation, or whatever. But the last night was spent under the stars in the pitch black with just my neon, little sticks, and I was giving myself my own rave, and it was fantastic. I was rocking nature like nobody's beeswax. Okay, so now, when it was all over, I drove myself to a beautiful boutique hotel. I took a 45-minute shower, and I went down to the lobby and had myself the finest fucking martini you ever had. I had to, because after all, I am my mother's daughter, and I am the prize. And I'm so grateful. I thought that I was saving myself, but really that voice, that certainty, whoever said you're the prize, it came through me, it wasn't me. So I want to take credit for me, like I saved myself. But I think I saved myself because I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to ask for a change. And man, did I got it. Let me tell you this. This was the best, worst thing I will never, ever do again.